Before we get into it, we want to show a quick video from the Kauffman Foundation so that you can learn a little bit more about 1 Million Cups in case you're new. So speaking of new, are there anyone this is your first time at 1 Million Cups? Nice, welcome. And then you raise your hand if you identify as an entrepreneur. Nice, awesome. All right, so we're going to show this quick video and then we'll get started. Sounds good?
1 Million Cups is a weekly educational program developed by the Kauffman Foundation.
Over the years, we've added more cities, creates a great energy here to see what's happening across the country.
What I've learned from other entrepreneurs is very, very valuable.
So you really need other people that have ideas too. It helps people to lose it. You know what? My idea is worth something. It's worth pursuing. It's worth going after it. Even if there's like a challenge, I should still go out and try to do it. Appreciate it.
All right, again, so my name is Kiara Smalls with Philly Startup Leaders. We're one of the organizers for 1 Million Cups Philadelphia. And so as you saw in the video, 1 Million Cups is a national initiative by the Kauffman Foundation. And it was launched in Philadelphia last year, thanks to the city of Philadelphia. So the 1 Million Cups organizing committee is comprised of a bunch of different organizations and companies. PropWorks, Comcast, Philly Startup Leaders, La Colombe, City of Philadelphia, and I'm probably blanking on one or two, and I'm sorry in advance. But together we host 1 Million Cups Philadelphia. It's a monthly meetup such as this where we have 2 entrepreneurs present. And so Jacqueline's going to tell you what I want to do first before we get into 1 Million Cups is to share a couple of community announcements from our end. More of save the date, hope we see you there. And then what will happen is if you have any community announcements or something you want the community to know about and be informed of, we'll allow that opportunity at the end of today. So if you want to think about something you want to share. This is less picture company. That's not what's happening, but more of if there are some exciting updates that you want the community to know about, we will provide an opportunity for you to do that. So tomorrow at 5:30 p.m., Philly Startup Leaders, we're hosting an HR for growing your business symposium with Just Works. So if you are a founder or a decision maker in your company and you're about 2 to 3 employees and you want to learn how to properly grow your team and think about all the legal aspects and payroll and benefits and company culture, all those things, and you want to prioritize them early on, please join us tomorrow at 5:30. It will be at Make Offices co-working space at their 17th and Market location. So it'll be on like the 15th floor of Make Offices. So again, that's tomorrow at 5:30. If you were to follow along with Philly Startup Leaders Twitter, you would be able to find that link to be able to register for tomorrow's symposium. Next Thursday, the PHL Innovation Picnic. So that is taking place at the Navy Yard Thursday 5 p.m., 4 p.m. in the evening, and that's just a full, a big event with a lot of games, food, and a lot of folks in this Philly startup ecosystem who will be in attendance. So it's a nice, like, informal way to kind of connect with others who are in this ecosystem, and you want to maybe get to know. There will also be games. And the proceeds for the Innovation Picnic go to nonprofits who support kids in elementary school in STEM. And so, again, all proceeds go to support the next generation of entrepreneurs. Lastly, I want to thank Mandar Innovation Studio for hosting us. Can we give a round of applause for the Mandar Innovation Studio? This is a beautiful space, so thank you again for opening it up to us this month. And so without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jacqueline, our head of programs at Philly Startup Leaders.
Thanks, Kiara. Hi, everybody. Good morning. So again, thank you to Vanguard Innovation Studio. Also, thank you to Zaxby's for providing the coffee and the snacks over there. I don't know if you've seen those cookies, but oh my goodness. So really excited to have you guys here. This is a monthly event, again, by the Kauffman Foundation. It's a nationwide initiative that is happening on Wednesdays in 180 cities across the country. So the idea and the notion behind 1 Million Cups is that entrepreneurs can thrive over collaborating and connecting over 1 million cups of coffee. So it's kind of a cute little notion, and we're happy to have it here in Philadelphia. So like Kiara said, we'll have some more community announcements at the end of the event. If you have any that you'd like to just pass along to me, let me know and I can share with the crew. Otherwise, we're going to get started. So what's going to happen is we'll have 2 presenters today. Each presenter will have 6 minutes to pitch to you guys. After that, it's community feedback, audience feedback from you all. So we want to make sure we can hear you, so we'll be running the microphones to ensure that you guys can use those so everybody can hear. And we'll allow about like 20 minutes of Q&A. So this feedback is super valuable to these entrepreneurs. They need it, they want it, it helps them. So whether that's asking them questions or just providing comments or compliments or saying you know have a connection that might help drive their business forward, all of that is welcome here today. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce our first entrepreneur, Amber Lee Venti, founder of Pippy Sips.
Hi, I'm Amber Lee Venti, CEO and co-founder of Pippy Sips. Pippy Sips has created the first all-in-one cooling system, storing system, and monitoring system for breast milk. Sorry, I didn't get to this. So I'm sure you guys are wondering a little bit about our company name and the name of the product. First thing I'll tell you is we're a family business. My husband, who's sitting in the front row, we currently run this business with strategic advisement from his brother, who has a wealth of business knowledge. So PIP is kind of a family term for us. My mother-in-law likes to use this old-timey term to tell her sons they're being a pain in the butt and to leave her alone. We've integrated that term into our family. We often call our kids Pips or Pippies. So when we started creating what might be a bottle that babies would sip out of, that's where we came up with Pippy Sips. Maya is a little bit more about our customer and the values that we honor in our customer. It means a variety of things in different languages, but the 3 terms that really spoke to us were mother, bravery, and love. So let me tell you a little bit about Maya and how I came up with this idea. So about 2.5 years ago, maybe a little over 2.5 years ago, I had just had my second child. I was returning to work. I ran a mental health outpatient clinic here in Philadelphia and Kensington, right as the opiate epidemic was gearing up. So between caring for 2 young children, not sleeping at night, and managing crises almost daily, my life felt very, very chaotic. Only compounding this was the fact that I had to pump and store milk for my baby every single day. Unfortunately, the work environment that I worked in wasn't very conducive to pumping and storing milk. The refrigerator that I needed to put my milk in was in the room where they did group therapy, so it was often not appropriate for me to open that door and put my breast milk in there. I often forgot my cooler. I wasn't sleeping at night. It's hard to remember all the things you need to pack when you're pumping for the day. And frankly, I did not like carrying my breast milk bottles throughout the office. I was in charge, so people were often coming up to me asking me to put out fires, to consult doctors, to help therapists, and it felt pretty awkward having these bottles of breast milk in my hand. So one day I was sitting there, I pumped, my milk was sitting on my desk in the plastic see-through bottle and right next to my water bottle, and I thought, why do we have these beautiful, classy sleep bottles for water or iced tea or coffee, but not for our breast milk, a really precious substance? And the analogy that I'll give you here, for those of you who have not breastfed and pumped breast milk, is think about buying a carton of milk at the grocery store, and you have to store and cool that milk all day long without a cooler or a refrigerator. Imagine if you left it in your car all day. Would you drink it when you got home? Would you give it to your babies? No. So this is really where I started to tackle this problem. Something about me just personally, I probably got into mental health because I grew up in somewhat of a chaotic environment. I was often on my own trying to figure things out. And mental health, I kind of learned these problem-solving skills growing up, and mental health really was conducive to that part of me, and I often was solving problems. And when I saw this problem, I wanted to solve it. I had no idea how to solve it, to be quite honest. I've never developed a product, but I was on a mission, and luckily my husband and brother-in-law were on that mission with me. So this is Maya. I'm going to do a little bit of a demo so you guys can see how the product works. Like I said before, it's an all-in-one cooling, storing, and monitoring system for breast milk. Right here, this is a breast pump. So it attaches directly to industry-leading pumps, so moms can use this bottle with the pump that they already have. They pump the breast milk right into our bottle, our BPA-free plastic bottle. Then they put the top on. I'm going to put the microphone down and maybe yell a little bit. Put the top on. There's a thermometer in the top so that they know that their milk is being monitored and stored at the right temperature. This is our cooling puck. It goes in the freezer overnight. It's filled with distilled water, so the water freezes, getting it cool. It all fits together nicely. And there you go. So that vacuum seals the cool energy in there, which keeps the breast milk refrigerated temp for a little over 12 hours. Mom can check the thermometer on top. One thing that I won't show you, but I'll explain to you, is that if you miss one of the pieces when putting it together, it's not going to fit together. Moms are often forgetting things for the pumping day, which is one of the worst feelings. I will tell you that from personal experience. When you get to work and you can't pump, you start to freak out a bit. So if it doesn't seal, mom is getting a cue from the product that she's forgot something. It's sleek, it's fashionable, and it can be thrown into your work bag and no one will be the wiser. So what are moms relying on now? Like I told you before, it's usually a shared work fridge, which is awkward. Somebody could leave the door open. God forbid somebody tamper with your breast milk or put it in their coffee. There's also coolers, which women, in surveying women, we found that women don't like coolers. They don't know if it keeps their breast milk the right temperature for the right amount of time. So like I said before, this is a journey of not knowing. Both my business partner and myself had never developed a product. He's a lawyer, I'm a mental health professional. From the get-go, we had no idea what we were doing. So I've listed here all the many things we had no idea what we were doing, but we somehow figured out, actually, which is the good news. I circled some of the things that I think we didn't know how to do, figured out how to do, and did pretty successfully. First and foremost, I think we developed a sleek product that women will want. We also surveyed the market to find out that it wasn't just me who was experiencing this pain point. Many women, we found that 56% of women worry about how they're going to cool their breast milk. We engaged the media. I thought we got some pretty good press here in Philly. And we crowdfunded. We raised a little over $21K on iFund Women. So, like I said, we didn't know what we were doing. And it wasn't as easy as pumping breast milk into a small water bottle and keeping it moving. We had to try a lot of different things to figure out how to keep the breast milk the right temperature for the right amount of time. And here are some iterations of our prototypes that got us to the final product. This is the trajectory, this is where we've been, where we are now, and where we see ourselves going. Most important here really is that we see ourselves in the space of storing, cooling, and monitoring breast milk. The big breast milk companies don't seem to be thinking about that. They're thinking about how you get the breast milk out, but not what to do once you've gotten it out. So in surveying the market using CDC data, surveying breastfeeding and pumping women, and beta testing our product, we know that women love this product and are very likely to buy it. So our hope is that a little over 487,000 women will buy it when we hit the market. So you can't really see my questions here, but this is my question really to you guys, the audience. You know, we did a crowdfunding campaign December through March. We sold about 40 pre-orders. Those we know are our innovators, our visionaries. Those are the people who have been on the journey with us and know and love us, so did pre-orders. But there was also innovators in there that saw a new product out there that might help their lives. My question now to you guys is really, how do we find our core user group when we get the product out there? We're hoping in the fall to get our pre-orders and a pilot product out there for women to start using. And how do we get that first cohort of users to start our word of mouth advertising so that when we really hit the market in spring, we have almost 500,000 women willing to buy it. So thank you.
Questions for Amber Lee? you want to raise your hand and we can run a microphone.
Really like the product. Have you gotten any feedback from any of your first users?
Yeah, so we had 3 different breastfeeding and pumping women use it, and they really love it. They love the concept. They felt if it was a finished product on the market that they would buy it. I think a little bit of my question, the nuance of my question is, women are already doing what they're doing, and asking people to change their behavior, even though it might make their lives easier, is I think where the hard part is. Yeah.
So for the word of mouth advertising, I would see if you could try to have your first users maybe give a testimonial on Instagram or Facebook.
Yep.
Have them use your hashtag that you want to brand with your service, and then give them early access to your products, maybe a personal thank you card, something special.
Yep. Thank you. Very helpful.
Hi, quick question. Do you over here in the back? So do you have a current visual branding marketing strategy? And if so, what is that going to be looking? What is that going to look like?
Have you seen enough pink? Yeah, so once again, not one of those things we know how to do, and we're really looking for feedback and help. At some point we will be hiring somebody to do that. I would say right now that's mostly my vision, and pink has been the way. Yeah.
Hi, great presentation. I was wondering, I guess for marketing, have you considered maybe reaching out to corporations, maybe this could be a CSR initiative, because I think that's something that usually, there's kind of a lack of maternity leave.
Yeah, definitely. I think we've talked a lot about doing B2B, business to business, and talking to businesses. Luckily the world is changing. I'm not going to get on a political rant here, but FMLA leave, there's a lot of efforts towards giving women more leave once they come back to work, making sure, because of Affordable Care Act, now we have clean, safe spaces that we can pump, which is kind of ridiculous. We never had that. But I think those are great. That's momentum for our product. It's political momentum, and it's the right thing to do, but it's also momentum for our product. So I think businesses now know that they need to care for the women that are having babies and children in their offices. So I would love to pitch to businesses to see if they would provide these to women who are having babies in their workspaces. Thank you.
Yep, I got you.
I would love to. I'm sorry. I would love to see some of those statistics, like that slide that you had near the end earlier on,
yeah.
So that I right away had an understanding of the size of the market and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think that might be interesting to dive into ways that you could create a B2B solution in order to facilitate your B2C go-to-market kind of plan.
Yeah.
Maybe even partner with some of these the pump manufacturers and create sort of an upsell opportunity.
Yep. Great idea. Yes, we would love to do that.
Morning. Have you thought about marketing on places that sell baby products so that people that are buying, say, baby food could see the product?
Yeah, for sure. I would really like to, when we launch, I would love to be on one of those lists, top 10 things to buy for a new mom, stuff like that. Yeah, for sure. Gift guides for moms.
Hi.
Hi.
I would like to say that I agree with all the political stuff because I was listening to you and can we just give our breasts to our children in peace? But apparently it doesn't work that way. So the question that I have for you is, when you did your, market research and you found the competition, when you looked at your competition, did you find that you had to work very hard to get your product to a place where you would tell your customers, this is better than so and so and so?
Yeah, so the competition, it's interesting. The competition is free. So it's interesting to ask somebody to change their behavior and spend about $95 extra when they're getting something for free. Our competition is work fridges, so most people have that in their office. Unless you're a woman who works out in the field, we talk to plenty of women who don't have the standard 9 to 5 sit in an office all day. And then coolers actually come for free with many of the pumps. They provide you this little dinky cooler with like an ice pack that fits your bottles. So our competition is like not as great as us, but it's also tricky because it's free.
So to that point, as you're talking about marketing and how to reach out, something that I don't know the answer to that necessarily, but it's a premium product clearly, right at a more premium price point. I wonder whether you can look at other, not the same use case, but similar products targeted towards women that are along those lines. For instance, we ended up buying like a Kindy. It's like this $100 thing to warm up your bottles.
Oh, wow.
And right, the competition is also free. You just boil it. There's parents spent, I know there's another mother in the studio here that spent a lot of money on this like cradle that's supposed to like automatically put your kid down to sleep when they wake up. It was like over $1,000. So who are the type of people that are buying those type of products and where are they finding them that might be helpful for some of this?
Yeah. I mean, I think our product can be viewed as a luxury product. I think the women who buy Willow Pump, I don't know if you guys know about Willow Pump, but it's a wearable pump, so you don't have to bring a whole extra device. You put it in your bra, you pump during a meeting, and nobody knows. So I think those are the kind of women, but we also have social values in our company, and we really want all women to be able to pump anywhere, so we want to keep all our customers in mind.
To address your question about advertising and generating that natural buzz, I was curious whether when looking at crowdfunding platforms, you specifically made the decision to go with a smaller platform versus like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And the reason why I ask is because I actually launched the product on Kickstarter that then went to Indiegogo afterwards for an ongoing campaign. And I was amazed at the amount of natural press we got out of just being on that platform, because what ends up happening is that you get picked up by one publication, and without you having to do anything, other publications just recycle the content, and once you end up on one of these like top 10 Kickstarter projects of the day, it's free advertising for you and your product, and on social media as well.
Yeah, so in our trajectory, I didn't put a Kickstarter Indiegogo campaign, but there is one out in our future. I think iFund Women came to us at a certain point in our journey where we really didn't know what we were doing or how to crowdfund, and to be honest, the service they sold us was learn how to crowdfund, and they did that, and they followed through with that, but they get way less foot traffic than Kickstarter and Indiegogo, so that is in our future.
Yeah, you should dedicate budget to media buying just to those campaigns, because I feel like if you do a really good job of media buying to the campaigns themselves, the other natural advertising and word of mouth will just naturally follow up.
Yeah, thank you, that's very helpful.
It was a great presentation. This is something my wife would have absolutely used if it were available at the time, sorry. She buys everything through Instagram influencers and like scary mom blogs like that. So I think getting traction on platforms like that is super useful. That's where she finds about all of her new products. My question for you is, are you patenting this? Is it patentable? And where are you in that process?
Yeah, so we have a provisional patent, and we have to work towards the non-provisional within a year. We have a couple of finish-up touches in design, so we don't want to apply until we have our finished product.
Thanks.
Yeah.
We have 2 more questions.
I guess it's less of a question, but I thought of a group that could be interesting to look into. Have you heard of Raisin? They're kind of like an all-female like entrepreneurship group, and I think like that could be an attractive market just because like entrepreneurs want to support entrepreneurs, especially females want to support
Yes.
females. So.
Yeah, I have heard of them, but I'll look more into it.
And so one in the front and one in the back, so not really more.
Hey, me again. Have you heard of a Maternity Care Coalition?
Yes.
Okay, I was just...
We reached out to them.
What did they say?
We're trying to get the conversation going. They are doing some amazing work out of the prison system and making sure that women who are pumping in the jails can get their breast milk to their babies. And I would love that breast milk to be in Maya.
Gotcha.
Last question?
Hi, great pitch, awesome product. I'm glad someone asked about the patents, because the one thing that made a lot of sense would be like partnering with because you like integrate with the pumps. And so I guess, because obviously you have the special sauce, but what would prevent one of them, like what, I guess, how are you going to position it to where it's better for them to partner with you than to make their own, I guess?
good question. I don't know how well I'm going to answer it. I think there's, once again, won't get on my political platform here, but I think what's happening in the world today is women are taking over the products that they use, and that's really valuable to women. I know I'd rather buy a product related to my body made by a woman than a man who may not understand how my body works. So the big breast pump companies are run by men. You know, if you look at it, yeah, it's shocking, I know. When we started this whole process, that was something I didn't know. And when I looked at that, I was like, that is crazy. And they're really like, the big breast pump companies are really kind of like old heads. They're kind of more like hospital feel, medical feel, and they're not speaking to the woman the way that we want to be spoken to at this point.
All right, thank you
Awesome.
so
Give it up for
much. So as we transition into our next speaker, I just want to provide an opportunity for you all to meet the person you're sitting next to or across from. So we'll just take 2 minutes to introduce yourselves to someone you're sitting in front of or next to, and then we'll get ready for the next presentation.
HR for Growing Businesses at Make Offices tomorrow night at 5:30 p.m. We'll be there. It'll be cool. You'll learn something. And the PHL Innovation Picnic next Thursday, June 27th. Proceeds go to nonprofits supporting the next generation of entrepreneurs. Everybody should be there. It's going to be a really fun time, rain or shine. Okay, so our next presenter is the founder of Nth Round, and I'd love to introduce you to Graham McConnell.
Thanks everyone for coming, and thanks to Jacqueline and Kara for organizing all of this. Thanks to being part. My name is Graham McConnell. I'm a co-founder at Nth Round, and so a little bit of background about how we got the idea behind Nth Round. So I actually, my first job out of college was actually a startup in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and I got stock options with the company. And soon realized that I really didn't ask any of the right questions. I had no idea how many shares were outstanding, what they were worth, and I ended up leaving the company a year and a half later and essentially giving them up. I then went on to work at a public equities investment manager here in the city, where I saw the exact opposite world, where the equity is very liquid; it can be traded very easily, and so we started to look at private companies and how we recognize that giving out equity is a great way to incentivize your employees. Most startups believe in that. But it's a complicated process, and really there's not much visibility into how much the shares are worth, and there's no way to get realize return on your investment or to see the value of all your hard work as a founder until there's some kind of liquidity event. And so a liquidity event normally comes in the form of an IPO or an acquisition, which in some cases is kind of a long shot. Not many companies go public these days. So and the other thing I should mention is vesting schedules tend to be very arbitrary, and 1 year cliff doesn't necessarily always line up perfectly with the incentives of the company. So so we asked ourselves, what if your company had its own private stock? And this could mean a lot of things. So we would see all the same benefits of being a public company while keeping the benefits of being private. So you could tap into this anytime for additional funding. It makes it a lot easier to incentivize your employees, and not only that, but they have a place to go then to monetize their equity. So for example, and this works for investors as well. So let's say I raised money from Becky, who's a neighbor of mine, and she gave me $50,000 to start the idea. 5 years later, she needs to send her kids to college, and in today's world has no way of actually getting return on her investment. So with your own private stock market, she could go onto the site, post an ask for her shares, and others could see that ask and then bid on it. So just a little bit to what this looks like. And this is basically to show the amount of control that the CEO and the board have over this. So private companies are private for a reason, and they want to know who their shareholders are. So it's really up to the CEO and board who is inside this walled garden, we call it. So yes, existing shareholders are obviously inside here, but if the CEO and board want to bring in new liquidity for their investors, then they have full control over who comes in. This is also blockchain enabled, which is very important to us because we don't need to go over dealer, we don't charge any transaction fees, we actually are a SaaS-based model. So it can keep our costs down, and it also makes the actual users of the platform their own custodian. There's no transfer agent, no middleman, essentially. So where we are today, so we raised $4.3 million from NEA mid last year. We have about 8 employees now. Here's an idea of what the product looks like. So we're live with, we can actually just switch over to mobile optimization. It's actually interacting with the blockchain is not that easy, and so doing so on a phone is something that wasn't really, it's not really easy, let's just say that. And so, we have about 8 clients today, and the grand vision here is that we can create a network of investors and founders, because each has their own preferences. Investors like to invest in certain companies, founders like to find strategic investors. So if we can become this matchmaking service and make the entire private investment world more accessible to investors, we think it would be a lot more efficient. Some of the highest growth companies in the world are private. I think a lot of people here would probably have invested in Uber a couple of years ago if they could, but only recently did they go public. So a lot of the return is actually been realized before they go public. So that is about it. One of the questions I'll pose to the audience is, do you own equity in a company, and would you consider selling at this point, whether that's a company that you're currently in or were in the past? And then if you're an entrepreneur or a founder, could you see yourself possibly selling off some of your own stock, or would you be okay with your employees doing so? So thank you so much again for having me.
Any feedback or questions?
How does your business generate income?
Yeah, so we're a SaaS-based model. We charge anywhere from $4,000 to $12,000 a year, and that's based on how many shareholders you have. But on top of that, there's no transaction fees, commission, or anything like
that. How does the regulation work? Is it because you guys are through the blockchain, there's no SEC and FINRA involved?
There definitely is a lot of regulation involved. So the first 6 months we spent a lot of money on lawyers, and there's actually 3 exemptions that we have to get through. So there's the Securities Act, which is easy for us. We admit that these are securities up front. It's real equity, unlike some of the other blockchain projects that you hear about that are pseudo-equity. There's also the Exchange Act, which is the hardest one for us, but we're actually not exchange. We don't do any matching of orders. And then the last is the 40 Act, the investment company Act. A lot of details that the good news is this is totally compliant, totally legal. We visited the SEC in November and spoke with the commissioner.
Good presentation. With regards to the company, what do you guys do for like valuation? Like, how do you value the price for the stock and strike price and so forth? You talk to that a little bit.
Sure. So we've worked a little bit with Biz Equity, is a company here in Philadelphia that actually specializes in business valuation. But really, the platform actually can do price discovery. So when people put in their bids and asks, they're essentially saying they're coming up with a consensus of what is the price that they put on the stock. This doesn't show it here, but just above this, there's a price graph, so you can see the history of price. And then finally, the founder, the CEO, and the board have the power to set a price floor and a price ceiling. So let's say they got a 4.98 valuation at $1. They can set their floor at $1 so that the value of their company isn't incredibly
Sorry, one quick follow-up. Have you guys thought about like partnering with Carter?
We have, yes. So they actually just raised $300 million a couple of weeks ago and announced Carta X, their exchange. So we definitely know that they're moving into this space. Who knows how quickly that will happen. But I don't know. I think we want to remain independent as long as possible and remain a low-cost alternative to Carta.
In a low liquidity environment, which is kind of like what I would assume you've created, and of course, assumption being broad, right? But and you spoke about how you put a ceiling and a floor, or the CEO could do that. Have you seen any negative ramifications from prices and something, say, staying low for an extended period of time, and then the effect it could have on the employees of the company and their perception of value?
That's a great question. So, absolutely, you could piss off some people in the company if you would say set the floor price very high. But there's actually, it's better than nothing, which is what most companies have today. And that's what you're basically doing is saying, you're stipulating that people will only trade at this price. And you may end up with no trades on the platform, which as a CEO, you really don't. It's a benefit to shareholders, so you want them to be able to at least get some form of liquidity. But it's entirely up to them. Forget the second part of the question.
Could you just peg it to a specific price rather than create a range?
Yes, you can set the floor and the ceiling to the exact same. You're stipulating the same price for it.
For entrepreneurs who are new to this world, like what would you suggest? If, you want them to be curious about this and consider this, what would you suggest for them in terms of any resources, whether it's locally or they can find somewhere else?
Sure. So definitely talking to older, more experienced people in the tech or in the startup industry. That's how I originally found out, was hearing more senior employees at the company that I worked at say, do you even know how many shares there are outstanding? And so that's one great resource. And then also, Investopedia has a ton of information on a lot of the terms that I just mentioned. If you read, I don't know, if you're reading startup books like I just finished The Hard Thing About Hard Things, there are a fair number of mentions of how they actually go about the fundraising process and different share classes. But yes, I agree that it's complicated.
Yeah, okay.
Unnecessarily.
All right, I got the final 3 questions.
So with investing in private companies, there's like the whole accredited investor part of it, if you need certain liquid assets. So how do you, is that part of it? How do you navigate that part of investing in private companies?
So for a new offering, you do have to, if you're doing a Reg D offering, most of the time you can only bring in up to 35 non-accredited investors. But if you're doing a secondary offering, or essentially bringing in people to provide liquidity to your early investors, they don't actually need, there's no requirement there to be accredited. So as long as you're not raising new money, that's not a requirement. But there's also, part of the future vision for this is that we'll have a network of all accredited investors if you are doing a new round, and you can tap into. One of the other things that I didn't show here is that we created basically a profile for the company. So if you do go out and fundraise again, you can share this profile with investors, and that will give them some basic information on our mission, the executive bios, and so that it's another way that we're hoping to matchmake for founders.
Hi. Thought on the presentation. I'm not entirely sure who the target audience would be. As someone who works at a business and might be someone participating or looking at this, if you're asking for my feedback, this went right over my head. Again, not entirely sure who the target audience is, but if it's a user who might try to convince my business or my leadership to look at this, I was lost.
Well, I appreciate that, and I agree that it's not a simple topic to talk about, and we have to do a fair amount of research when we go to pitch to figure out whether someone's interested in incentivizing employees or providing liquidity to shareholders. So there's different use cases, and we have to try and identify that ahead of time. And you're absolutely right, do a better job of putting it in dense.
I personally think it's a great idea. 2 questions. How does your due diligence process work? Are the positions transferable, or where does it sit on the cap table? So would like to get some clarity on that. Second question, if a company is participating in this sort of thing, most often need the CEO and the board to buy in. Have you run into issues where they're not willing to do that?
Definitely. So, to answer the first part, so actually on the cap table, all the participants are a single line on the cap table. So there's actually a voting trust behind all of this, and with that's basically just a container for all of the participants, and the CEO votes the shares that the participants have. So maybe 10% of the company that's within this environment, but it's a single line on the cap table.
The second question was, you need to get the buy-in from the CEO on the board, right? Have you run into issues where they're not open to that?
Yeah, so it's a long sales process. A lot of times you'll hear, let me take this to my board in 3 months, and there's a lot of decision makers that need to sign off on this. So, but ultimately the beneficiaries of this are the shareholders and the CEO. The board tends to be all shareholders, so they all should have at least some incentive. But you're right, there are objections that come up that we have to try and manage.
Nice comment.
Next question?
Yeah, go for it.
For the companies that are going to be on this platform, is there a certain criteria they need to have or a certain threshold they need to reach actually to be on the platform? Because how do I know as an investor if this company has a viable service or product?
So in the profile that I mentioned earlier, there is an area where you can post documents about your company, and we actually suggest that the company post at least last year's balance sheet and P&L. None of that's audited though. We can't actually guarantee that they're audited. So we do a fair amount of due diligence just on our end, because we have to be careful about having, let's say, a scam happen on our site. So that would be a reputation hit to us. So we use our best judgment. We usually will try and, so far we've been working with companies locally in the area, so we can actually go and visit them and make sure that they're real. But I think as we scale, we'll need some kind of more rigorous due diligence process.
Have you not experienced any fraud cases or?
Not yet.
Okay.
Awesome. Give it up for Graham.
Great job, Graham and Emily. So that concludes this month's 1 Million Cups Philly. And so really quickly before we get into community announcements, again, we want to thank Vanguard's Innovation Studio for hosting us here. We give them another round of applause. Today's session, as well as all the previous ones, have been recorded through our friends at Switchboard Live. So you can find it on the 1 Million Cups Philly Twitter, as well as on the Philly Startup Leaders Twitter.
Just so everybody knows, the next 1 Million Cups is Wednesday, July 17th. It'll be taking place at La Colombe in Fishtown. And so we'll follow up with a link to register for that, for anyone that's registered for this event. In addition to that, the presenters are okay with it. We can share their contact information if you'd like to get in touch as well.
And if you yourself want to take the stage at the 1 Million Cups Philly, you can go to the 1 Million Cups Philadelphia site and apply to present. And then we'll follow up with you once you do.
All right, so for community announcements, we know we have Tiffany who's going to come up.